Welcome to Behind the Audition podcast with your host, Curt Hilton. Listen in on interviews with voiceovers, filmmakers, producers, animators, and much more. Curt, a voice actor himself, will give insider tips to the business, talk with guests about how they got into the business, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast when he challenges his guests with a pop-up audition. Now it's time for Behind the Audition podcast. Here's Curt Hilton.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. On this episode, I spoke to the voice actor, Bonnie Marie Williams. We talked about how she started out in the voiceover industry. She gave some great cold read tips, life in the theater industry. She told me how she created her business name and brand. We also talked about impostor syndrome, depression, and anxiety in the industry, marketing to your voiceover niche, and what big project got her moving back to LA. So sit back and enjoy this episode of Behind the Audition podcast. All right, and coming to the show, and before we start the show, I have to say, we are at the one, the only Soundtrack Studio down here in the beautiful city of Raleigh, North Carolina. I mean, downtown, too, and I'm with a guest that has been here in Raleigh for a long time. I didn't know about it, and we started talking on social media, and then I found out she's going back to California. But before she goes back, she's in studio with me today. Like I said, it's Soundtracks, and if you are in the area of Raleigh, North Carolina, the Triangle, or even border on the state of North Carolina, you have to come check out this beautiful studio. I mean, you feel like you're back in time, but it is so nostalgic, and it's amazing. But coming to the show, you've heard her voice on animation, video games, IVR, commercials. I mean, everywhere, and I just cannot wait for you to meet Bonnie Marie Williams. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm super excited to have you. And this is the first time that I'm recording this show in a studio. So
Oh, hey. Well, look at that.
Yeah.
You can't beat this one. I love this place.
Absolutely. I mean, when you walk in this place, don't you feel like you went back in time like Sinatra and
I think of the Beatles. Yeah.
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 And we got Cameron over there. Cameron is like the most laid back, cool sound guy you could ever work with. And of course, we got Beckett, the boss lady herself.
Boss lady.
And so to start the show off, you and I connected on social media, and that's how I talk to most of my guests. When did you got into this industry? What was it that made you like, I'm going to be a voice actor? Was it when you were a kid, or is it just something you watched on TV, or maybe a friend or family?
Kind of all of that. So originally I wanted to be on Broadway. That's what I wanted to do. My singing and dancing skills say otherwise, but I got my theater degree, and like growing up, it was really, you would watch the behind the scenes featurettes on Disney movies, and it was always celebrities. So my brain never thought that this was something that people who aren't Robin Williams do for work.
Mm-hmm.
And I never made that mental connection. Ever. I had family friends in the industry, but they were singers and they were Broadway performers, but nobody was really a voice actor. So I told you I talk with my hands.
Oh, it's good. That means, when you act, you use your hand. You're supposed to do it, right? That's good.
It's all the time. I
Yeah.
whack my mic stand. It's terrible. So I was getting my theater degree in college, and one of my friends worked at the college radio station. And she said, hey, do you want to come by and do a radio commercial? And I said, okay. Like, cool, what do I have to do? She said, well, it's for a Mexican restaurant, so you just have to pretend you like it. I said, that's not even acting. Okay, I'll go. And it was my first time behind the mic, and I did it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Cool. Let me go, off to New York, go be on Broadway or Saturday Night Live or something in New York. Like, I just didn't think about it.
Yeah.
And then I had some personal things and some family things kind of keep me local to Southern California. And so I just never really thought about it again. I was like, yeah, that was cool. I did a thing, whatever. And it wasn't until I was doing TV and theater and film out in LA, and I wasn't loving it anymore. I was getting really burnt out on it. I was getting burnt out on the unprofessionalism and feeling like I didn't fit in, and I didn't know where I fit in, because it's all about how you look. And I hated how I looked on camera. And I said, okay, like, I still want to be an actor. What do I do? And it was really two friends of mine who were, one of them was actually one of my college professors, and another friend that I did theater with were both doing voiceover. And both of them separately told me, I think you'd be really good at this. One of them was doing audiobooks, and the other one was doing everything else. And it was the two of them kind of nudging me and saying, give it a try, see what you think. And I went over to one of their studios and she just threw stuff at me. And I just had so much fun behind the mic that it reminded me of when I was an undergrad getting my theater degree and that magical feeling I'd been missing. And I said, okay, this is what I need to be doing, because it didn't matter what you look like. It didn't matter what your face was doing or your face wasn't doing in my case, or none of that mattered. And it felt so freeing and so liberating. And so I started taking classes with people who didn't know me, and they were giving me the same feedback of, you're really good at this. Keep taking classes and keep learning. And I couldn't get enough.
So you said the right things too, because I think you and I talked about this before the show. When you get into this business, it's just, I'm going to go into a studio. I'm going to go into my home studio, whatever. I'm going to read this copy and I'm just going to make it big. You did the right thing. You got coaching, you got classes. And how important is that in this industry to get coaching and get classes and actually learn what's going to happen, or if this is even right for you?
Yeah, it's so important that I can't even stress it enough. I literally can't even.
Literally?
You literally can't even. It's so important, because you wouldn't just go up on stage and do a Shakespearean monologue, right? If you didn't understand how the rhythms worked. So just because you can talk doesn't mean necessarily that you can do voiceover. It's
Right.
something that you have to learn. I grew up doing theater and learning how to do all of those different things and the different playwrights and all of these different things. You don't just wake up one day and you know it. So people have this assumption that just because your voice sounds good, you're going to make $1 million bajillion in voiceover, and it's just rolling up and just
Right.
talking and that's it. But when you have different people on the line, that one wants this and another wants this, and you have to translate that, it's not as easy as it seems. So I always tell people, before you jump into the deep end, take a few classes and see if it's something you even want to do, because maybe you have this idea and this fantasy of what it's really like. And then you get behind the microphone and you go, ooh, this is not what I thought it was.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
classes are a great way to start to invest in that and discovering and just having fun with it without making that full-on commitment and buying the $1,000 microphone and then feeling like you might be a little trapped. Because maybe it's
Absolutely.
not what you thought it was. Or maybe you end up loving it and you want more of that. And that's a great way to find out, and to take classes with different teachers, because everybody has something different to offer, because we're all different people.
Right. You just spoke of something to your voice, how you come off. I've talked to people in the past about this. I deal with anxiety sometimes. I deal with, stressing out sometimes, worrying, what if. And so I speak with a therapist now and then to, about reaction and going over things. And I used to meditate all the time. I quit for about 4 months, and I was doing it during the pandemic. I was really needing it, because I used to be an extrovert, and I became an introvert, and I've
Oh,
had
wow.
I'm kind of like, not social anxiety, but I'm back to normal again. I'm feeling better, but I started meditating, and it's kind of funny you said that, the way your voice comes out. I was yesterday going through meditation apps, and 3 out of the 4, they were just like reading. All right, now you're laying down. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, no.
Mm-hmm.
One was writing with a pen. I'm like, what are we doing? I'm
Now
trying
that's weird. Okay.
So when you started, your first audition, what was it like, and how did you make it sound like you were acting, not just reading the paper? Did you get that eye-opening, like, audition, like this doesn't sound right? What did you do to better your reads and reading the copy?
Honestly, I don't even remember my first audition, so I can tell you first time behind the mic, because it was cold reading,
Yeah.
which is a great skill to have that you can cultivate in theater classes. I'm
Yeah.
just saying. I love cold reads now. They're so fun to me. But that is a skill that you learn. It was kind of easy for me to make it sound conversational and like I was talking to a friend, because my friend was right next to me in the studio, but we don't always have that luxury right now. Like right now it's you and I here together, but if it was us having to read commercial copy together, but by ourselves, it'd be totally different.
Right.
It's really just I come from the theater background, so it's using the who are you, where are you, what are you doing, and it's using those different things to bring the scene to life. People have different methods of doing it. You can take a line, look at it, lift it up off the page, and say it, and just do one at a time. There's all sorts of different ways. So I don't know. I feel like that's kind of not a cop-out answer, but it's like, well, I had my friend in the studio with me, so that was my first time. I don't know. Figure it out, you guys. That.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends on the copy, I think.
Yeah, I like
In
that
most
answer.
cases, yeah.
So talk about theater. When you first got into theater, what's that process like? Because I was actually talking to my mom on the way down here. Uh, I can talk in front of 500 people. Being in the DJ industry for 20 years, I can get in front of 500 people. I can get, in front of Cameron or whoever behind the mic and do whatever and feel fine. You put a camera on me, I shut down. It's
Mm.
like Vince Vaughn on Four Christmases, where I'm like, duh, duh, stutter and all that stuff. Theater, is it the same process? Auditioning, or is it very, how can I say this? Backstabbing, because everybody wants that part. What's that life like in theater?
Ooh, okay. Well, I will say that the voiceover industry as a whole is much more mm, collaborative and supportive than, I don't want to sound like I'm trashing an entire industry, but I noticed that voice actors tend to be a lot more, I don't want to say communal because that could sound a little weird, but a lot more collaborative and a lot more encouraging and supportive. Whereas on camera actors and theater actors, it can be a bit more competitive, like everybody's out for themselves. I didn't get a whole lot of that when I was an undergrad, but in the real world, when you're competing, it's that sense of like, well, I'm competing against this person for this job. I'm competing against these people just to pay my bills. Like Scott Parkin said that in a class recently, and it was like, oh, no, he's right. That is exactly what we're doing. But in voiceover, people are a lot more like, hey, I'm helping to cast this for a client. Send me referrals.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know if people necessarily do that as much for on camera stuff. So I'm really fortunate in the sense that I didn't get a whole lot of that backstabbing, everybody's in it for themselves when I was an undergrad and like growing up doing theater. But in the real world, there's a lot more of that. Like I remember going into auditions where you walk in and there are girls in that room that look just like you.
Yeah.
And everybody's there for the same part. And there are girls that are trying to psych each other out. And like that scene in La La Land with Emma
Yeah.
Stone where she's in the audition room, it's just like that.
Wow.
But in voiceover, like one of my friends who really encouraged me and supported me when I was getting started, she even told me, like, technically you're my competition, but I think you would do so well with this and I want to see you succeed.
Wow.
Which is wild to think about when you're coming from, another industry where that's not always necessarily the case. So it was kind of weird at first. It was kind of like when I moved here from LA, I don't want to say the first time because now I'm going back, but when
Yeah.
I first moved here and people were nice, I was like, why are you being nice to me? Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
It was so weird, but it's like, no, that's just how it is. It's the best way I can relate it from one to the other.
So when I went to LA, I did see that I had some friends that were out there. One wanted to be an actress. One was out there to be a photographer, and maybe get into screenwriting. And I remember going out with a couple of them because they had friends who were in the industry. They're actors, and every time we'd go to different bar. We went to the one that was in Swingers, the one with the drummer and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we all sat in the corner, same area. And the only thing everybody talked about is, what's your next project? What were you on? What did you do? Is it really like that in LA still? Like where it's really not a conversation. It's kind of like that's all you talk about when you go out is it just, because here it is different. You go here, you talk about sports or, a little more open, I guess, with each other. But it seems like when I was there, it's all everybody wanted to talk about when they went out.
That sounds about right. I've been, I was bi-coastal for the last year and almost year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during, the giant panini that we're all living through right now. So going out is a weird concept. So I don't know how much I'm actually actively going out and listening to other people's conversations and things. But it's still, everything is moved to self-tapes now. And I know for sure that when everything shut down, a lot of stage and theater, and well, that is theater, and TV and film actors were suddenly being told they had to go into voiceover and they had to get into it now.
Right.
And that was a very weird thing to be approached by all these people. And they're like, well, I need to make a demo reel now. My agent said I need one now. It's like, cool. It's going to take some time unless you want to suck.
Right. Right.
Unless you want to suck, but I get that's your agent telling you. But at the same time, how would you approach this if I was a voice actor coming to you and saying, I need to go make a demo now. I need to go make a video reel now.
Mm-hmm.
it goes both ways. So I think I don't even think we're post pandemic yet. I call it panini just to
I'm gonna use
because
that.
I like food
Yeah.
and just so stuff doesn't get, I guess, demonetized.
Right.
But I think it's definitely a different world. Like everything's moving to self tapes now, so we're kind of already used to that because we
Yeah.
have a home studio and setup
Yeah.
and all that. But now you have to have the on camera stuff. So
Oh.
I think it's still very much like that. I don't know. I guess I haven't been social enough in LA, but when I am, I can let you know.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch with that. So let's talk about your brand. And I know
Okay.
the word brand, sometimes brand, whatever.
My brand.
Yeah, yeah.
That commercial.
So
Do you
tell us
remember?
about the name of your brand, because I love the name and how you got the name. And I'm excited to talk about, because I love your website. It has like different parts of why you do this. So what's the name of your brand and your website, and tell us how it became.
Okay. Woohoo. So my brand is the voiceover superhero, and I have had that since I officially rebranded in January of 2018. And she's about to get a makeover. I'm just saying, I've had some stuff working in the background. There's a lot happening right now, but I'm very excited. She's going to have a 21st century makeover. One of my friends is doing the new design, and I'm very, very excited. We just had to get some other stuff settled first. But I did that because, I couldn't figure out why anybody hadn't done that before. And I was reading Celia Siegel's book on branding. And I was actually out here at the time, and I was planning a wedding. I was doing all this stuff. And I said, I need a rebrand, but I don't know what to do. And I read her book, and that just kind of, I don't want to say it was like a flash of lightning, but it kind of was. And I looked and I said, nobody's done this. But I grew up with these characters. And what I love about superheroes, besides the fact that we have always needed them in the media to show us hope and to show us that things can be better. But what I love about superheroes is they rarely ever work alone, because they always have, their kryptonite. They have the thing that they cannot beat, but you bring in somebody else
Right.
and they do it together. And that's what I love about the voiceover process. I can't just be a voice actor by myself.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
That would be great, but A, who's going to pay me if I'm just talking to myself? But B, it's when you're collaborating with other talent, you're collaborating with engineers and the people who hire us, and you're creating something together. And what I also put in with my brand, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Coffee's still kicking in.
It's all right.
I'm jet lagged, it's fine. Is what I love to do is, even if I can't be the solution myself, I will pull from my network, my Justice League, or, my X-Men or whatever,
Yeah.
to bring in somebody who can be. And so I try to say, it's really not about me. It's about how I can help you. Because who's, Superman, right? Who's Superman saving if he doesn't have anybody to save?
I love it. You know what I love about the website, though, and this stuck out the most. So when I look at the guests' bios, what they've done, the thing that stuck out the most was your Clark Kent section. I thought it was very cool, because it's not just about me. It's the man behind the glasses, the woman behind the glasses, what have you. I went to that, and it was like a story, what you work on, and the real hero is Clark Kent, kind of like, I think. You know what I mean? That's what it stuck out. I'm like, wow, that's very impressive. What made you want to do that instead of just, about me or staying cliche?
So I was actually almost named after Clark Kent.
Oh, okay.
My dad was really into, that was the person who raised me on comic books and pretty much all the geeky things that, as he said, are cool now. So he's like, you can thank me for that, because it wasn't cool when we were little.
Right.
I don't know if you got bullied, but I certainly did for liking Star Wars because I was a girl, but I always got to be Princess Leia. So that worked out nicely on the playground. But, he was the one that raised me on comic books, and had I been born a boy, I would have been named after Clark Kent, because that was his favorite character.
Wow.
And so he was probably the biggest inspiration. Ooh, I'm about to get emotional. Behind, ooh, ha ha ha. This is that vulnerability part that we talk about in theater. He was probably the biggest inspiration behind my brand, and he was the strongest person I ever knew.
Now I got to find Kleenex here.
So,
but you know what? That's important. That's important. You keep him with you, and that's great, because I think there's the misconception of this industry is just, when they build a brand, they just think of something, they put it down there. This means a lot to you, and I respect that.
Yeah.
And the next thing we'll talk about is imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And I see it a lot. A lot of voice actors talk about it. What does it mean to you, and is it real to you? Because I think there's days where I wake up going, what am I doing? Like, and then you get a booking. Last night, I got NDA sent to me. I got some big things in work. And it's like, okay, I was just freaking out. Imposter syndrome. How do you overcome it?
Yeah. So I know we talked about this a little bit a while ago, but mental health stuff is really important to me. I have depression and anxiety. I go to therapy. I'm very open about that.
Yeah.
If you've ever been on my Instagram, I'm like, hey guys, here's what my therapist told me today. I hope it helps somebody else.
It's amazing. My wife told me, and I was like in the past, no way, I'm not doing that. That's
Yeah.
awesome you do that.
Yeah. Because it's so, earlier generations didn't talk about those things. It was very much like, nope, we don't talk about that. You're fine. You need to go outside.
Yeah.
You need to go get some sunshine. You don't have anything to be depressed about. And it's like, sometimes it's beyond our control. So I think imposter syndrome, when you have mental health, I don't want to say issues, when you have mental illness in any sort of capacity, gets exacerbated, especially when you're going through stressful life changes. So I think we all have imposter syndrome. I know I've had it sometimes where I book something big and I go, ooh, are they sure they want me? Are they sure they want me to do this? But then, you just kind of put on a brave face, and then you get into the session or you get to where you're going and you hear somebody say, like, we heard this and we knew you were the right person.
Right.
Or you have, if you're working on like a collaborative thing, I know I've worked with people who are big names and I was nervous, like, oh my gosh, I have this big name and who am I? I'm just this person. And then you get in there and this big name person goes, wow, I think, it's really cool what you do, that you can do this.
Yeah.
You go, oh, you think I'm cool?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that external validation can only do so much. It has to come from inside. And sometimes it's just telling yourself, like, I'm going to fake it till I make it.
Yeah.
And for me, I have my brand and my avatar, and I go, okay, she's brave. I got to be brave.
Yeah, I love it.
She's, I can't be afraid if I'm the voiceover superhero, so I got to go do it.
Yes.
Because if I'm not helping, if I'm not doing the things I'm supposed to be doing, then what am I even doing it for?
Absolutely. And that's why we talked about, there's 3 things you need to have: thick skin, you need to get coaching, and you need to realize what this industry is all about, because you will be, if you have depression and you can't take being critiqued, you can't take being jabbed, this is not for you, because this industry is hardcore and you need to be, motivated every day. My last thing before we have some fun with the audition challenge is, how do you market to your clients, and what do you focus on the most? And I know a lot of people don't want to talk about niche. What do you like to focus on most? Is it characters? Is it commercial? What do you like to focus on? How do you market that genre?
I feel like as soon as I say it's one thing, then it becomes another thing. Like I'll say, like, oh, I've been doing a lot of commercials, and then something with animation will come in, or something with corporate narration will come in. But I generally try to leave myself open to what people throw at me, and I'll give it a good go. And if they say, hey, I thought you were great, but maybe the client wants a British female instead.
Yeah.
Cool. I know some. Let me send that over to you. I actually just did that recently, but I know I probably should, as I don't like to use that word, I should do this.
Yeah.
I should focus in more. I really try to just go, okay, what's coming now? So I kind of see what's coming down the pipeline. Is it an e-learning project? I've done those where I've played kids of all ages. That's really fun to me. I don't like to limit myself to 1 or 2 genres specifically, because I like to have fun with a lot of them. Like if a phone project comes in, sure, okay. So I think the best way to answer this is I don't necessarily target by niche. I think I just I build relationships with people, and I kind of let them decide, like, what would I be good for?
I've heard that. So you put your projects out in the market and let the market hire you.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
I think that's the best. That's maybe the first time I've actively thought about it or said it out loud.
You helped me today. I'm gonna use that idea, because you go home and you're like, I started using pen and paper again. I went back to old school. This week I'm focusing on e-learn. I'm gonna hit an e-learn project. Next week, whatever. But this makes more sense, because you know what? Why do I got to keep searching when you keep a good relationship with clients you work with and let them recycle the business.
Yeah.
essentially. Okay, I like it. Well, now it's time to have some fun. It's time for the audition challenge.
Woohoo!
I have the script for you here, and we're going to have fun with your child voice. Read this script like a commercial.
Okay.
And I'm gonna pass this to you here.
Ooh, cold reads.
And whenever you're ready, have some fun with it and take it away.
Hey kids, you're not going to believe what's coming to shelves at your local grocer. The all-new BS Bubblegum. This flavor is asparagus and garlic flavored bubblegum. That's right, ha! Asparagus and garlic flavored bubblegum with a hint of garlic. But here's the best part. When you take a bite, the juices of Brussels sprout come flowing out. Yum! BS Bubblegum. Get your pack today.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
See, cold reads are fun.
See, that's the best part. You just get into character and you just have fun with it. All right, the next thing I want to talk about, one of the main reasons you're going back to California. Tell us about the big project you're going to be working on.
So I can talk about a few things, but I went back last spring to go work on a movie that's going to be coming out this year. We're now in post-production. I started as production management type of role. We just said, hey, here's what we want you to do, but we don't quite have a title yet. And so I was doing that. And then family stuff had me going back out. I was working while I was out there. I was renting studios. And then I had a really, really tough go of it. Doing the bi-coastal thing is really hard. It's tough on you financially. It's tough on you physically, flying back and forth. And you're constantly jet lagged everywhere you go. But I was trying to, rent rooms and just have a base out there where I could work because Airbnbs add up very quickly.
Yeah.
$800 Airbnbs per week.
Wow.
Yeah, adds up very quickly. So I came back here in November. I put my stuff in storage at my lawyer's place, and that was very nice of him to offer that. And I just said, I'll figure out when I come back because I didn't think I was going to come back for a while. And I thought that dream, had ended, that ship had sailed. And then in January, I booked a job with Pokemon,
Woohoo!
which was great. And it
Congratulations.
was off of my demos, and it was through networking and a referral and, no pressure. And after a crazy flight fiasco, just trying to get out there, I feel like life sometimes will throw things at you when it's something you want really badly.
Yeah.
Life will say, how badly do you want this?
Right.
Are you willing to put up with your flights being canceled at the Seattle airport
Yeah.
and losing your luggage?
Yeah.
Are you willing to put up with all of this stuff where you feel like
Shenanigans.
one more thing and you might just crack and break down in the Seattle Tacoma airport bathroom? Not that I would know. Not
You've
that
heard
I
about
would
it, right?
know
You've
that
heard
I
about it.
didn't have a mini breakdown in the Delta Lounge bathroom up there. No. I've just heard.
That's
I've just heard
awesome.
about this. So Pokemon hired me and I flew out and we had a great session. And then I had to go back and do a pickup and do another pickup. And it's like I just kept having things keeping me out there. And I said, oh, okay. So I was looking for places every single day. I said, I can't keep doing $800 Airbnbs per week
Mhm.
with no actual place to record. If I was doing anything else, that would be fine. I could still work from home. But not having a dedicated space to do our job
Mhm.
makes it very difficult. And you can only rent studios for so long because the studio's got to get paid.
Right.
You might not get paid till 60 days later.
Right.
So it all adds up very quickly. And I said, you know what? I just need a space of my own out there. And even my therapist said, you need a space of your own out in Los Angeles where you can go and unwind and relax. And that is your safe haven. That is your paradise, your sanctuary, whatever you want to call it. But that is your space
Love it.
to do the work you love. And I said, okay. And I ended up finding a place and it had a closet that I could work out of, which was great until people turned on the water and I found out the water tank was right behind it. I ended up getting a booth, but I had Pokemon bring me out and then I just kept having other stuff bring me out and I just kept having to stay longer and longer and longer. And I said, this is where I need to be. My family stuff is there. I have work out there. I'm working on the movie right now.
Yeah.
I am now supervising producer of the movie, so my first producer credit,
Yeah.
which is very exciting. We've got names like Tom Savini in the credits, so if you're a horror buff, you know
Yeah.
who that is.
Yeah.
It's very, very exciting stuff.
So before I let you go, again, thank you so much for coming on here. I always have the cliche question. what's some words of wisdom to those that think A, they're ready for this, or B, they're serious and I want to be a voice actor? What are some words of wisdom you give to these?
Oh, okay. So I always tell people this. Don't go into this wanting to make a quick buck. And if you really want to be an actor, but know that it is not steady. For most 99% of people, like, you have to really love this, because there are some days where this is hard and it will kick the crap out of you emotionally, hopefully not physically, financially. This is really hard, but you're not going to know unless you try. So if it's something you really want to do, give it a fair shot. Really, like, don't half-ass it.
Yeah.
If it's something you really want to do and this is your dream, you owe it to yourself to go after that dream.
I love it. I love it. You know, time goes by so quick, and there's so much more I want to talk to you about. So when you get back to California, we're gonna have to definitely do a part 2 with you.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about you teaching acting. I mean, there's so much. Is there going to be? Are you going to be a coach? Are you going to do this? I'm excited to see the next step in California. I know, even though you're from there and you're going back, but thank you so much, and thank you to Soundtrack Studio here in Raleigh.
Yes, thank you.
For this wonderful episode. Thank you, Bonnie Marie Williams, for being on Behind the Audition podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast. You even got me crying. Woo! Yeah.
My wife was a TV anchor, but she, I guess that and watching all those Barbara Walters episodes, the questions.
Yep.
Or Jerry Maguire, you're not going to get me. No, you're wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening in on Behind the Audition podcast, made possible by Hilton Productions. If you need a male or female voiceover, contact us at hiltonproductions.com. Hilton Productions, let our voices do the selling.